The next session is entitled Nextt Moving from Vision to Implementation. And again, we're going to focus or remain with the digital. Nextt stands for New Experience Travel Technologies. And again, it's about establishing, adopting, and implementing new standards in the digital, including items like contactless travel, innovations, and concepts of off-airport processing. I'm going to welcome the group on stage again, and I'm going to start with my colleague, Monica Simonatite. Welcome, Senior Manager, ATM Strategy and Deployment Manager at Stansted Airport. Welcome. I'm going to welcome Thomas Romig, Vice President of Safety and Security and Operations at ACI. Nick Van Straten, welcome, Program Director, Biometrics and Customer Experience at KLM. Mark Schwartz. Mark is connecting from remote Senior Manager of Innovation and in New Business at Zurich Airport. And finally, moderating is Giorgia Camilleri, Manager of Airport Operations and Technical Development at IATA.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you very much, everyone. Good morning. Pleasure to be here, and thanks to our panelists. So today, yes, we have a session about Nextt, New Experience Travel Technologies. And before we start really to listen to our speakers, I wanted just to give you a bit introduction of what is Nextt for those that are not familiar with it. Nextt is a joint venture with ACI. So it's an initiative that both ACI and IATA are working on and moving forward. It's looking at technologies and new processes for defining an industry vision for those elements that move in an airport. So we have a journey for a passenger, for the baggage, for the cargo, and the aircraft. So of course, this was a vision that was established a few years ago. And some of you may remember actually that we had also some very good industry workshop and boot camps where we were identifying and confirming the vision that we established was the correct one. Of course, with the COVID, this is a bit a different, it's a different world, as we know. So today we are going to listen about what is the strategy that we have for Nextt, and also looking at some implementation and case studies that demonstrating that the vision is correct and what are the next step. So again, this is just to recapture. We have this vision about aircraft, cargo, passenger, and baggage. The focus today in this specific session will be mainly on the passenger and how to collaborate with the different stakeholders, meaning how to do interactive decision making. So without taking too much of time, just let's set the scene by a video.
Life will be connected, faster, smarter. What about transport? How will technology, process and design transform airports and the journey to and from them? What will the future look like in a world where more than 7 billion people fly every year and where 3,000 freighters transport our goods around? Let's see. Your future journey will begin with booking, capturing identity and data for you and your bags or your cargo. Travel will be hassle-free using conveniently located city centre entry gates and collection services. Real-time communications will be increased across all aspects of the journey. The customer experience will continue to evolve, reflecting and enhancing the way of our daily lives. Passengers will finally be able to personalise their journey from the comfort of their sofa, or even from their seat in the sky. All commodities moved in air cargo will be continually monitored. Advanced processing through automation and robotics will bring unprecedented efficiency. And behind the scenes, connected systems ensures decision-making is based on trusted and reliable data. And this is just the beginning. Let's build the journey of the future. Let's create the travel of tomorrow. Let's make the most of new experience travel technologies. Nextt.
Okay, great, thanks. So As we said, this is a video that was before the COVID. There are some changes that we are working on now with ACI, and I would like to pass the room to my colleague Thomas, that talks about more on the strategy that we have for Nextt in the coming years.
Fantastic, thank you, Giorgio. So indeed, Nextt has 4 different really journeys which have been identified, and what we've been looking at, and through the pandemic, of course, there's been significant changes which have occurred to our business. And so we've been really thinking about how this program needs to be reinvigorated, needs to be changed, needs to be updated. And this is what I'll talk about a little bit in the next few slides here. Then we're going to go into some actual real implementations. But one of the things that we've looked at with Nextt is to take this vision, which was established a few years ago, and turn it into lessons learned, into different tools, into different building blocks and modules, which allow us then to be able to move towards the vision. The challenge is, though, that the vision was established prior to the pandemic and was established looking at 4 different areas of activity: passengers, bags, cargo, and to a certain extent airside operations or ramp operations. But the main focus has really been on the passenger and the baggage activities. So we're now actually starting to go towards other areas of activity, and that's where we'd like to build this program in a collaborative way, again, between our 2 organizations. And I think that's one of the big advantages we have with this program, is having both airports and airlines and our respective suppliers to both airports and airlines working in a collaborative way to be able to develop these different modules, different programs, different activities to move towards this vision. So what we've actually done during the pandemic was spend a bit of time to put together this dashboard, which is available on the Nextt.aero website. And the dashboard is slowly being populated. There's just a few case studies which are on there for the moment. We're working actively, and Giorgio is definitely working hard to get that going, bringing in different case studies from across the industry with the business, let's say the business plan or the business case behind the different technologies, behind the different initiatives which have been launched, and being able to showcase them so that through this dashboard we can pick this information up and make it available to industry, and really again help move towards the implementation of the Nextt vision. Now that vision needs to be renewed, and this is where we're starting to go down the pathway. For the moment, both organizations sort of working in parallel. Over on the airport side, we're looking at the different sectors of activity within the airport to identify where the existing vision that was established in Nextt needs to be transitioned and where change will be brought into it. And I know over on the airline side, a very similar process is currently underway with an IATA to again identify the changes which are needed. So I'm not actually able to show you a slide with a brand new vision and all sorts of cool stuff. That will probably be for next year. But just to say that we are actually looking at this transition. And in the end, what we would like to do is make sure that Nextt remains a mechanism for delivery for the vision of the future in terms of digitalization, in terms of innovation, in terms of technological change across our industry. And this is where today some of the different thinking is going. Sustainability, for those of you who participated in the ground operations group yesterday, there was a lot of discussion on sustainability of ground operations, because this is what we're talking about here. Of course, it's something which is being discussed across the industry, and it's not just not just environmental sustainability, but economic and social sustainability, which is particularly important. So, all of the different things, programs, activities that we have in the Nextt program actually build towards sustainability. So I'm not sure it's got to be a category of itself. I think it needs to be integrated into everything else that we do. But it's definitely one of the core focuses of the Nextt evolution, the Nextt vision. It's complicated having Nextt and Nextt, but anyway, we're also looking at how we can build in aircraft operations and focusing a little bit more on the activities around the aircraft and really that turnaround process. And one of my favorite topics is also system performance and looking at the airport system as a whole, looking at how the different stakeholders within the airport work together and projects, some of which we're going to hear about actually shortly, which will drive the performance of the airport system. And that requires collaboration between the airport operator, the ground handling service providers, and the airlines, the aircraft operators in the end, to be able to bring us to a better performance, to better use of capacity across the airport system, and in the end, better customer service, better services to all the end users. So this is where we're going. I put a little other ideas, and I think that will be something maybe for the discussion we can have afterwards, Giorgio, if there are ideas within the participants here of domains that we should be focusing on through this program. But the key is really that we have a transition, and we have an opportunity for a transition. We have an opportunity for change within the Nextt program, and we are looking for this evolution with a renewed vision which will drive us forwards, basically. So that's just to give you a little overview of what we're doing and where we're going in terms of our thinking. And I think with that, I get to hand it back to you, Giorgio.
Thanks, Thomas. Very nice. Appreciate it. And yes, as we said, now that you have a bit of strategy in mind, let's see some of the implementation that are already happening in the industry and that supports the vision. As I was saying before, the focus for this session specifically is on the passenger journey and interacting the decision making, meaning data sharing and collaboration among stakeholders. Of course, one of the things that when we talk about passenger journey and that everyone think about, it's the identity management, the identification of a passenger using biometric. And we have the experience that we want to share with you from KLM. Nick is going to give us some good overview. So, Nick, to you.
Thanks. I'm too sorry I missed the previous session about data sharing, because data sharing is a complicated thing. Customer experience, we love the journey and we love to understand our customers. So quickly an audience survey. Who in the audience is from Asia, Pacific, Oceania? Just raise your hand. I won't put you on the spot. Very good. Who's from Africa, Middle East? Yeah, and then Europe. Oh, a lot of Europe, of course. Anybody from the Americas? In particular, USA people? Okay, very good. So, because USA actually is the only place where we think biometrics is working in a great way. A little bit about myself. 3 years ago, I started as a program director biometrics, and then came COVID, and I became a program director health. It's the same underlying dynamics in terms of privacy, GDPR, and the role of the government. But today I was asked to talk a little bit about the ecosystem on biometrics. It's picking up again, so all the people that moved to health now moving back to biometrics, put on a different suit, and we're experts. 3 years in a row, you're a senior expert. But we have some experience. This was somewhere between 2012 and 2015, and we had a full biometric customer journey at Aruba Airport called Happy Flow. It included basically all the steps, but, and I will come back to that on the next slide, but it all happened at the airport. So to give you an idea, for KLM, how do we work around the customer experience for the airport relevant for today? Is the first box be relevant? That's to make sure that the customer is correctly informed about all the steps to take and the preparation to make. And I think we've all lived through COVID. COVID was a nightmare. Being director of health for KLM, you're being called by everybody, I'm flying too, what do I need to do? And very honestly, in the beginning, I felt very proud of myself because I knew all the answers. And then I think after 3 months, I was completely lost. And even today, I'm still confused, but at a higher level. So, but we try as airlines because you all know, in the end, it's the airline that has done it. As we try to get a good net promoter score, we try to take responsibility and work with the stakeholders to make sure that the customer is correctly and timely informed. Get back to that on the next slide. Hold the thought. Then at the airport, that's what this conference is all about. Speed, hassle-free, smooth, and the airports would say, time to shop. We would say, make sure you're at the gate on time and with an on-time departure. So, these are two of our beautiful customers or models, I don't know, but the main thing, the point I want to bring across, you saw Aruba Happy Flow, and the journey started at the airport. And we all know that today, for most of our customers, let's say around 80%, and for some airports, I think it's even higher if you have a different airline constitution and different target. It depends a little bit on how digital your airlines are and how digital your customers are. But we see around 80% of our customers check in online. So where in the previous slide, and it says it's slow, we said be relevant. And be relevant no longer means be relevant at the airport, but means the moment the passenger is preparing for the trip, and that's at home, or for example for you here, when you fly back, you start preparing here during a talk or in your hotel. It's online. Keep that in mind. In the biometrics, it's one of the main learnings. There's a big struggle on digital identity. It doesn't exist yet. No government has issued a digital passport. So the solution people think of is to come with the passport to the airport, but for us it doesn't work. We'd like those 80% of the passengers to remain online, and we like to keep them in our digital journey and not go data sharing with other providers and in the chain. It's a harsh message, but it's a clear message, and I think most of you understand it's how you want to get your passengers through your journey, not out of your journey. My main lessons in biometrics is that the technology is relatively simple. We all have it on our phone. I'm a frugal Dutch guy, so for me the biometrics is finger, but for sure there's plenty of well-paid executives here with the newest iPhone that has already the face recognition. So the technology is not the issue. What is the issue? It's looking at the process. And for the airlines, the process is really getting the passenger ready to fly, and that is far more in passenger facilitation and in the end verification. I will not go on all the details, than that it is about the check, is the face belonging to the person I expect. It's really making sure that all the checks are being done and the data that we need to share with the governments, but also the checks that we have to do at the gate, and especially the proof of possession. Is the passenger walking aboard of the aircraft with the correct documents, that part is really secured. Now, obviously, we hope with technologies and governments moving to interactive programs that we can shift a lot of this upfront and in the digital area. But my call really will be, and I will repeat it at the end, is for airlines, airports, and governments to not take, it's for airlines and airports to not take bold moves without the governments on board. Because in the end of the day, the governments are prescribing a lot of this process, and they need to accept biometrics as an alternative process. So that's why I said in the US, I think there is a very good dialogue with the CBP and the TSA on how to do that. In the rest of the world, we're not there yet. And I jokingly say, really, we don't speed up the queues at security by scanning a face instead of a boarding pass. So it's the same picture, but differently, but it shows where everything needs to be checked. And keep in mind, that's the only takeaway from this slide. We talk about admissibility. That is a role. Getting on board, really, as an airline, of course, we do care. but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the passenger verification, making sure that the passenger is boarding the aircraft, is traveling with the correct passport, and is admissible. So, I said I would repeat the message, 5 points. It's our customer journey. So, we can help you speed up the processes, but we don't like to push the customer away from our environment to different environments. So we need to work together, and also work together with governments to ensure that the flow is a logical flow. I compare it to payment service providers. We're happy to make sure that the customer goes somewhere to do something that needs to be done to be well prepared, but we'd like to see the customer coming back and stay engaged with the airline. The point I didn't make, but it's a nice one that's on the sheet here. I said physical design of the boarding area must allow for correct handling of the passengers. What do we mean with that? We are a European airline. We're bound by the GDPR. Biometrics, unfortunately or fortunately, are special personal data, and the laws to use that, especially for European airlines, are quite stringent. That means that a passenger that doesn't actively opt in to use biometrics can even not be filmed by a camera for biometrics. And this is one of the challenges we have with the airports. How do we design for boarding areas that allow for the mix of passengers that we will have in the coming years? Those passengers that want to use the fast track and that want to be biometrically recognized, and those passengers that do not want. And then the last but not least, and the rest I have said so many times, governments, please help us, accept it as alternative procedures. And the one thing I didn't stress a lot, but I heard it was in a previous session, with the new technology we see a risk arising of metadata. And it's, for a lot of us, it's new, but the only thing I want to say is be wary of what we're doing, and that we're not unwillingly, unwantingly, or unknowingly create parties that sit on the data of our customers, and that in due time will lead to a lot of challenges for all of us involved. Thank you for the opportunity, and I pass it to you, Jojo. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. It was very good. And so now we have a passenger that has a more seamless process through the airport. But still, of course, I think many of us, when arrive at the airport, it's quite intimidating sometimes to know where to go, right? It's really mega airports, you know, to know what terminal to go, the gate, lounge, restaurants. So we thought to bring you another case study that shows some technologies that can help you in finding your way to the airport. And we have Mark from Zurich Airport, which is connected remotely. Mark, can you hear us, and can you give us your presentation?
Hi, Giorgio. I can hear you.
Very good.
Loud and clear. You can hear me?
Yes, very well.
Awesome. Great. So thanks a lot for having me. As you said, I think it's quite a good case study which I've got here for you today. Our vision at Zurich Airport is basically to connect people and places and create positive experiences. And to do so, obviously something which is quite important from a customer experience perspective is to make sure that people actually find what they're looking for. And that is one challenge which I think a lot of airports have due to numerous facts or numerous circumstances, which we're going to go into a bit more detail. So next slide, please. So this is really an essential part of a great airport experience, is finding what you're looking for. We're all stressed, we don't have a lot of time, we have got a flight to catch. So it's really essential that we find what information we need to get to where we need to be. Next slide. So here, obviously, at Zurich Airport, you can see there's a lot to experience, to explore. No matter if it's restaurant, shops, check-in counters, there's loads of escalators. So one thing which we also obviously encounter is finding on which level you need to be and where you have to get to. So that's something which I think all airports have got in common. There's a lot going on, relatively small space. So how can we improve that? And I think it's important just to mention that we didn't start off with technology. We started off with the problem statement and then moved on from there. So that is like one aspect. So if you can move to the next slide, please. We obviously have got 2D maps at our airport. That's something, again, which is quite common. But I think everybody has experienced a situation where you might have looked at a 2D map, you're maybe not quite sure where you are, you're not quite sure on which level you are, and if you even are able to navigate with a 2D map as soon as you're gone, so the second corner, you're probably not quite sure where you have to go to. So that's, again, something which is limiting just focusing on 2D maps when people are stressed and in a place which they don't really know. Next slide. So another aspect which I think is quite important, which we can see in day-to-day navigation, no matter if it's at an airport or on your way to another city or vacation by car, whatever, the point is, how long is it going to take from A to B? And that is, again, obviously, when you have got a flight to catch, quite important to understand how long is it going to take me from where I am to the gate which I need to be. Next slide. Some aspect which we also encounter is that, of course, a lot of people can speak English, but not everyone can. So there's limitations to the way that we provide information at an airport, and that can lead to people just being like missed out because they do not understand the signage at our airport. So that was another aspect which we also wanted to tackle. I think here, this slide really sums up quite well what we actually want to achieve at Zurich Airport. We want to make sure that when you travel through the airport, especially if you're not traveling often, that it feels like you've got a very experienced person at your side, which leads you through the airport, make sure that you find what you're looking for, can reduce the stress, and by doing so, making sure that you've got a great experience. Next slide. So with that in mind, we start to think about, okay, what is the vision? What do we want to achieve? And the mission statement was actually pretty easy, or the vision statement is full travel transparency from home to gate. We're basically making sure that when you are at home, that you get all the relevant information to not only find what you're looking for, but also knowing how long it's going to take to get to the airport, how long are you going to be waiting at check-in security. So you've got all the information you need to have a great travel experience. So on the next slide, this is actually where we started to engage with Google and to think about how could we solve this problem statement, how could we achieve that vision. And together with Google, we then teamed up about 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, to solve that issue. And we found out that technology is going to greatly benefit on solving this challenge by utilizing augmented reality wayfinding, or augmented reality as a technology, and implementing that into a wayfinding solution such as Google Maps, which a lot of people obviously already have on their smartphone. Next slide, please. So the magic of Google Indoor Live View, I think that's just a little bit of background. How does it work? We know there's navigation solutions where you need to have beacons installed or other devices at an airport. Now, the way Google Indoor Live View works is pretty similar to the way we actually process or understand where we are. So when we are placed into a room or we walk through a certain area, we're going to take up the information through our eyes. And if we've already been there before, we're going to reference that, or we're going to check with our reference data in our brain and understand and recognize where we are at the moment. And this is very similar to the way actually Google Indoor Live View works. So there's when we started off the project, we had to collect, or Google had to collect, all the reference data from the airport, so a lot of visual data, which then makes up basically your memories. And then when you use Google Indoor Live View, you scan a certain area, that data is going to be real-time referenced or checked with the reference data in the database, and then based on that, it understands where you are at the airport. So that's actually the magic of Google Indoor Live View. Now on the next slide, we've got a short video just to show how it actually works and how, from my point of view, it makes navigation as easy as it's ever been. So please roll the clip. So you can see as soon as the smartphone is tilted, the camera is activated, it then understands and recognizes where you are, and it applies or superimposes information with regards to where you have to walk, if you have to have a level change, how long it's going to take to get to your destination. So it's really a very simple and intuitive way of navigating from A to B. Obviously, it works in all languages, which is a big advantage based on what I've said before. And this would have not been possible without the partnership with Google. And we're really proud that we've become the first airport which has implemented this worldwide. So yeah, thanks a lot for your attention. I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, our problem statement was making sure that people find what they're looking for. And this is a solution which really helps you to achieve that goal.
Thank you, Mark. So definitely, Mark, just a quick question. So we can say that this is already live at the Zurich Airport, right? Everyone can use it. I don't know if
Google Maps on their phone can use that.
Very good, thanks. So now we have seen a couple of examples of how we are improving the passenger journey, the passenger experience. You save time, you have a seamless process. Of course, this is happening maybe in the future for every airport. And how important is collaboration among the stakeholders. And indeed, also what we talk often about is data sharing. So how to share data amongst different systems. This is where also ACI and IATA helps by building standards. And so we thought that, okay, those are two examples of where the passenger benefits immediately of those technologies and those industry implementations, but there are many other aspects that are happening behind the scenes that make sure that an airport works properly, everything is in order, flights are on time, disruption are managed properly. And so we thought to bring you this experience of more collaborative environment and data sharing with the example that we have from Stansted. And I let Monica to give you also the last presentation.
Thank you, Giorgio. I think the comment was, we do feel like Madonnas on stage with all those microphones. Really unusual. So I can still say good morning. It's just before 12. Thank you for having me on this panel. Really exciting to hear what's happening across the industry. And my name is Monica Simone-Tite, and I work at London Stansted Airport. Been here for 7 years. And my normal day job is looking after the air traffic management strategy. It's not enough, so I became the product owner for the Airport Community App. So I'm really excited to share our journey with the Community App and how it transformed the way we work at our airport. So a bit of a storytelling. 2018, summer, one of the busiest summers we've ever had at Stansted. And the problem was, at the time, that we had loads of passengers coming through, flights, there was absolute peak in travel. And that's before COVID, mind you. And what happened was, in summer, it's one of the most challenging operationally summers we've ever had. We had our on-time performance dropping quicker than the COVID cases these days. We had lots of delays, cancellations, which equals to complaints.com from the passengers. So our social media was absolutely booming with all the complaints and people actually being really mad, not having the full picture of what's going on. So as an airport, you definitely don't want to be in that situation. And when we sat down with our stakeholders and realized, okay, it seems we're doing everything what we have to do, why do we have these problems? But what we realized, and when you think about the airports, and I'm sure people can relate in the audience, airport is like a mini town. It's a city, right? So you have lots of companies working, and you name it, ground handlers, airlines, border force, police, retailers, restaurants, public transport providers. It's literally like a big, massive city, isn't it? And what happens is, put on top different departments, policies, procedures, right? And you have a variety of systems on top of it, technology. So what happens is you start to become operating in a very siloed environment. You literally look at your own area and nothing else. You don't see the bigger picture, right? So we thought, right, what we have to improve is, first of all, collaboration and communication. we need to see, we have to have a single digital platform to begin with, where all the data of how we're operating now would be available for everybody. So we looked around the market, as you do, and when you go to all these conferences and congresses, and when you enter the hall, it's like everybody has a solution for everything these days, right? But we wanted to see what really fits our own operations. We didn't look far, because our other UK airport, London Gatwick Airport, has already found a solution. So they had a joint venture with a Romanian tech company called Airport Labs, and you see the logo on the corner. So they built something called Airport Community App, and it's very straightforward. It's an app that provides live, real-time operational data for everybody. So we've decided to follow the steps, and mind you, London Stansted Airport is part of Manchester Airport Group. So we have 3 airports, Manchester, East Midlands, and London Stansted. And we said, right, our goal is to enroll this app before the summer 2019, which was the busiest summer for us. So across the whole of the airport campus, we have about 20,000 users having access to this app. And it really sells itself. It's pretty much focuses on 4 main areas, I would say. Situational awareness, so you are aware what's happening at this time. Workforce engagement, so the app, just mind you just say it's for the staff, so passengers have no access to this app, but we are able to provide a better experience for the customers when we have our all information at the fingertips. The gist is as well that it can leverage different data streams. So for most of our data, we use Airport Operation Database, UDB, to get the live flight data, stand data, gates, and so on. So really, it does sell itself. And I think for us, going into 2019 summer was an absolute game changer. And I have a little video to show when we introduced the app and some comments on how did it go.
I'm Nick Miller, I'm the Operations Director at London Stansted Airport. I'm here to talk to you about the Airport Community App. And it's an app that can be used by the whole community, whether it be airport staff, whether it be ground handling staff, whether it be air traffic, whomever that works at the airport. And it will enable us to understand how the operation is performing and how we can improve our service for our customers. The app has been used at many different airports across the world, including Manchester and other London airports, and has been seen as a real benefit to everybody that works at those airports. And I would encourage you to download the app.
So information is live fed. I can get arrival times of aircraft, I can get the first and last bag times.
For my department, it also saves a lot of phone calls, because rather than somebody ringing us up and saying this isn't working, they're looking at the app and it's there, they're aware that we're aware it's not working and we're dealing with it.
The benefit is the mobility. Using the app on our phones, we can use them out and about while we are mobile in our roles.
We are able to filter everything on the app, so anything that's relevant to your section, you can filter anything that isn't. It's also good to get an insight of what other roles and other departments do.
Very easy to download. I'm a complete technophobe, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
There's other things you can use it for which is really useful for your own time, such as traffic information, Twitter feed information. You can look at what people are talking about, trending, also for good discounts in shops and duty free. Yeah, it's really positive.
Download from the App Store or Google Play. Then simply type in your work email address, name and role. A PIN will be sent to your email. Enter this and you're ready to go. If you don't have a company email, MAG colleagues use their security ID number and PIN, located in restrooms. If you're an airport partner without a work email, contact airport_app@stanstedairport.com. Benefit from real-time information at your fingertips, including arrivals and departures, weather, passenger flow and baggage performance. You choose the channels you want to subscribe to and notifications you want to receive. Download it now. Need help? Email airport_app@stanstedairport.com.
Right, so we introduced this video after the app was introduced, and Just to kind of go quickly through the key features, I understand we have a lot of different companies in the room, so you might relate. As I say, the app is open for all the workforce across the airport, and everybody finds the use of it and the value. But pretty much, it's very easy to use. It's extremely user-friendly. So as I say, if you can post a picture on Facebook for your dog's birthday, you can definitely operate the app. I mean, it's so easy and straightforward to use it. You don't have to be a techie geek to actually manage it through. So what we have actually here is the main KPIs. So on-time performance matrix. We have the passenger flow, how many arrivals and departures we expect within the next hour. And interesting enough that, as I say, lots of things are automated, but we also ask our control centers to update if something happens. So for example, let's say we have an asset failing somewhere. So obviously we put it on the app and say, just one statement, fact, the asset is out of service, please use something different. And I can tell you, when we introduced the app in 2019 June, the amount of calls we used to get before the app and the calls we're getting now, it's dropping really quick. And actually what it does for the decision maker, actually, who has to deal with the disruption, has time, he has time actually to deal with the actual thing and the actual disruption to make sure that everything's sorted, rather than picking up the phone and trying to explain to everybody what's happening across the airport. So as I said, you have the flight list, key performance indicators. There's also sets and sections to provide on terminal updates, landside, car parks. We also get the weather information, which is current or predictive. We also have a tweet feed, so we understand what's happening, what's trending across the airport. So, and the thing is, with the app, you can tailor to your own needs. So what we provided for our stakeholders is the basic sort of format of it, but everybody has the ability to tailor to their own, let's say, operations and so on. So you may not see everything what is out there. Literally, it's pretty much fitting the user's needs. So just to give a quick, I think, feature information, which would be interesting for the audience. So most important thing, I think, is the flight information and data linked to it. So what you have here, you have a list of flights. They show, are they departing on time? Are they delayed? Are they cancelled? You have the stand number, gate number. And actually what happens is if you click on the flight in itself, it gives more information on it. Where is it traveling, registration number, aircraft, ground handler operating, and so on. And you can dive even deeper. If you scroll down, you can see even the timeline of events. So has the boarding started? Is the gate open? When is it going to leave? If you have ACDM at your airport, it gives target off blocks time, target startup approval time. So it literally feeds, it's almost like a story of each flight. So actually you can be more aware what's happening across. And I think the other bit which is quite interesting as well, would be the on-time performance, which is an absolute game changer for us, because we have a single platform where things are literally in one place. You open and you see exactly how we are performing today. And what we have actually here, so larger airlines that operate from Stansted, they have their own sections, and we compare yesterday's performance to today's performance. And if there are any delays, so we see things turning to amber, or God forbid, red, we can click on each flight and see what happened actually, what was the delay, how much it was delayed, and so on. So, and you have sort of a rolling performance as well, and see, are we meeting our on-time performance targets? So I think it's really straightforward. I think the success of the app at Stansted, I think we have it for 3 years, and we cannot imagine what would be our airport life without it. I mean, we never mandated to download the app. It was never compulsory, but actually it's almost silly not to, because when things happen at the airport, first thing is like, have you checked the app? Have you checked it if something's on it? So it is like, as I say, it's like a mini control center in your pocket. The thing is, you can interact with it yourself. As I say, we have 11,000 users across the airport using it. That's pretty much majority of our campus. If I look at the split, I think about 60 to 40. So 40 would be internal users or internal Stansted employees, and 60 would be the external ones. I mean, we opened up the app even to our governmental bodies and Department for Transport and the CAA to have access to the app. And it is becoming that single source of the truth, really. And I think if you really want to have an optimized, effective airport operations, you have to have that single view of what's going on. And as I say, it was an instant stakeholder buy-in. I mean, we kept the branding very neutral, so it appeals to all the workers at the airport. And it's very simple just to download on your mobile device. We also have a web view, so you can actually, if, let's say, your company is not allowing phones on the ramp, for example, we can give web view, which you can put on your PC, on your control center on a massive screen. We give ability of that. And I think it was absolutely critical coming out of COVID, actually having the app at your fingertips. It's crucial for recovery period, and it proves to work really well. So that would be it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, I think that's the last one. We see the time is running out, actually, and we have very few minutes for Q&A. I just wanted to confirm again that Nextt is moving forward. We have ACI and IATA working together to define the vision, to continue to evolve the vision, and with the stakeholders, airports, and airlines to see how those implementations are supporting the implementation of the vision. So if you have case studies you would like to also share with the industry, please let us know. We are happy to discuss and to promote through our Nextt dashboard. And I think really, I don't know if I'm allowed to have a couple of extra minutes just to ask some questions to the audience. Yeah, so okay. So please, questions we have either from a strategy point of view for Nextt or directly to our speakers that presented their case studies. Yep.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Maybe this question is addressed to Nick. In preparing the customer with the pre-journey information, I still wonder why there's so many customers that show up at the airport with tickets but without the proper documentation. Either passport is no longer valid or not valid for 6 months, or they're not holding the proper visa. What can be done to improve that service so that passengers who maybe aren't aware or were not provided the right information are given the information so that their trip is not canceled at the airport last minute? So what can we do as before travel to ensure that he's got all the proper document?
It's a great question. Must honestly say that on the KLM side we don't recognize that as such, but that's because more and more we ask passengers to scan their pass. Like most airlines, we work with a feature auto doc check. So we know based on the itinerary, we ask the passenger to scan via the mobile app, and now it's also possible via the website to scan their passport. So we can do already this check. Of course, this check today allows already for checking the passport rules against that what is available in systems like, for example, Timetic, and gives back responses to the customer. More and more we will see that with electronic visa programs that we can also bring interactivity there. So I think it's a good question. Technology is already there to help. It would help though if, especially on the missing part, because returning residents we can recognize easily. People with a passport from a visa waiver program country we can also recognize easy. It's still on the dynamics on the visa, and especially the visas that are not digitized yet, where we have some struggle to move forward and see how we can check that better upfront. In my opinion, governments enabling interactive programs on their visa, like for example New Zealand, Australia, would help a lot to already tell the passenger upfront whether they are okay to travel or not. So that's my long answer to your very short story.
Any other question? Let's see, any? You can also use, they gave me this because there are Q&A that you can also submit through the networking tool. So feel free to use it. Question from Massimo. Can we have the micro here? Or I can repeat if you want.
It's coming.
Is in the app a reporting system for the workers to report safety events, or not only maybe the type of things that are, maintenance facilities that are not working? That would be very useful. Or if you're planning to add.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. Yes, there is actually capability already to do that on the app. So just worth mentioning, it's about 20 airports across Europe and beyond Europe that have the community app. So we have a forum where we discuss different solutions. So different airports having the same app, it's interesting, can do different things, right? And they actually see what fits the operations, this is why we have the forum to discuss. How if Dublin does something different, can we do the same? Or Dubai, or Amsterdam, and so on. So yes, I think we've discussed this. I think for us, priority is actually your data is as good as somebody reports it on time and actually puts all the details as such. So what we were willing to have is as automated as possible. If there's something to report, can we actually, if there is an airport having a system already to do so, can we integrate that system to the app directly? So actually there's no duplication of work, or actually something's missing. So we're definitely looking into this as well, yes.
Okay, thank you. maybe time to close. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.